Hi, my name is Lisa Scooby. I'm a Reynolds Journalism Institute Fellow, and tonight we are gathered at Alki Beach in West Seattle, and we are here convening with Journalism That Matters to learn more about the local community, what's happening here across this community in journalism. There's been a lot of experimentation, a lot of new forms of collaboration between legacy sites like the Seattle Times and various hyperlocals like West Seattle Blog, which is really vibrant, a huge vibrant part of this community, and many, many others. Tonight is really an informal focus group where we're going to be hearing from the community about the kinds of things that could empower these guys' work, ways that they could find more efficiency, ways that they see collaboration being the most productive, and the different kinds of ways that they might be able to use online tools to empower their work.
This evening is the second in a series of what we've been aspiring to do monthly of gatherings on different topics of interest. And we had the good fortune of having Lisa Scooby, who is a current fellow from the Reynolds Journalism Institute at the University of Missouri School of Journalism, coming to town on a learning expedition associated with her fellowship project. And so there are a number of different functions in the room. We may not be exactly ethnically diverse, but functionally I think we've got some interesting mixed present.
Collaboration that is really unique, that is unto itself, but nothing that we really are seeing anywhere else in the country. And Journalism That Matters has been convening these amazingly powerful and insightful and engaged conversations offline. And that's been going on for some time. And I've been really exploring how do we bring that kind of a conversation online.
Or what would be a common things we all would want on a platform as digital media enthusiasts, or like what is the common thread that would be describing said service?
Maybe a compendium, and there are probably some out there, but that's part of the problem. There are a lot of people doing some of the same things, and we're trying to address that in a lot of ways. Guide to civic journalism sites, things like ProPublica and like Rita's great site, and there are probably like 28 others, but boy, if there were links to all of those lined up, I could go check out what they're doing and see if people were doing stuff very close to what I'm trying to do, or not so close, and it might cause me to shift my approach and make it better. And then there are probably like 5 other examples of that kind of stuff related to my particular thing, but then everyone else here, would have similar sorts of information banks that would be useful to them.
The other reason people come together in addition to funding is collaborations. And I think that's another big driver to bring people together across their organizations. And I think that's what you were talking about, that I am involved with some groups where they're very much a collaborative driver, but it's narrow. So the question is, how do you bridge it beyond regional investigative news organizations that are working together on a project, or we know we can turn to each other and ask questions and whatever. So how do you stretch it beyond that? But I'm also working collaboratively with many organizations that are not regional investigative news centers, and it'd be great to have.
What types of folks are those if you're outside of that narrow focus?
Common Language Project, with broadcast organizations, with other nonprofits that are not news organizations.
Nonprofits because of their subject matter expertise, or their audiences, or both?
Both.
and want to work with more. So we're thinking about ways that we can push, in addition to pushing news out into traditional media, we want to be able to push news out into some of these other channels. And so it would be valuable to me to think about making those kinds of contacts.
Collaboration revenue, and then make your future meetings saying, we're going to try to figure out ways of improving collaboration. Following meeting, we're going to think of ways of improving revenue, and just start chewing away on specific individual problems.
It's really the online versus the offline. I think that there's definitely things that cannot be done online. There's definitely things that cannot be done offline. So it's really interesting to think about what are the advantages of both modalities, and how can an online platform encourage offline action, because we all spend too much screen time. I guess the average 8 to 18-year-old kid in this country now looks at 7.5 hours of screen time a day. And in that 7.5 hours, they consume 10 hours of media. So they're not just watching one thing at once. And so I think that's something that's really interesting, is how can technology be a journey rather than a destination.
I don't know if anyone here is familiar with the Air Daily listserv. Does anyone know? So it's just a listserv. It's for the Association of Independents in Radio, and it's like very simple, straightforward listserv kind of thing. But for some reason, it just really, really works. Like if you need to know like how to get in touch with Ira Glass, you send a message to that listserv, and immediately have his information, and what the best way to approach him is, and some kind of connection. And for technical problems too, how do I do this down editing thing, program crash? And so I've been trying this whole night. I've been kind of trying to think what it is that makes it so successful, because I think we all are on 11 million listservs, and lots of them are maybe like not that useful for this. And I think that part of it is that it's really focused, like it's specific to radio producers, so there's like a really clear reason that everyone's connected. And part of it is that like everyone in that world is on it and looks at it. So and I realize that those aren't really like
It's been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
And there are really interesting statistics on how people personalize the news channels. People find out about news through other people, and that's personalized news, and that's really interesting.
I suffer from platform fatigue, and I'm here to admit it. It's difficult to keep up with, even just like the 6 or 8 professional, association type sites that I really should. So it would take a lot to get me in the door and really being a super active member of a professional community site. But stuff like, suppose there was an index of, this would take a lot of work, like all the grant recipients in the last year in this sort of new media civic journalism space. Who's getting how much from who for what? I mean, whoa, that would sure be useful as I was trying to figure out, who to talk to for my own new 501c3. Maybe a compendium, and there are probably some out there, but that's part of the problem. There are a lot of people doing some of the same things, and we're trying to address that.
Well, and it's interesting because some groups are using Twitter, not Facebook, and this is talking about community sites or even legacy sites. They look at Twitter as being this opportunity to really get their fingers on the pulse, and then it's kind of a harder news place to go for more, data points, facts, information, kind of a fire starter. And then Facebook is kind of the campfire. and it's interesting to see how different groups are using that in different ways and what effect.
Comments on the blog itself, as well as on our Facebook page. So we basically have parallel comments. We have a very active Facebook following, 2,400 people. And so you can post a link to a story there and look at the comments there. They'll be different from the ones on the site. There's a lot of crossover. Another factor is we're in our community, so we go to farmers markets, we're at events, all the business people know us, we're in the Chamber of Commerce. People come up and say, I can't believe, the cop shot that dog. This is one of the big stories of Des Moines. So it's that as well as monitoring traffic too.
So I go to Facebook, not every day, but I go to sort of catch up on friends and relatives. But what keeps me there is I've got half my Facebook friends are journalism colleagues, and they post interesting stories. Or I see what you guys are up to, or I see what you're up to, because I'm Facebook friends with you. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make a pitch for Facebook or anything. It just happens to be useful for me, for a busy person.
She's a plant.
We use Twitter. I hadn't thought about doing a whole story that way. I mean, you could do an ongoing stream of salient. What might be interesting, something interesting to consider that.
You're creating content, and how do you know whether it's connecting?
I've noticed that through public data firms, and I've noticed that in legacy media since I started the project and had a slot on the radio for 5 months, I've noticed more of that direct pulling of new public documents. I've noticed that in legacy media, and I can't in any way say that's because of the work I've been doing, but I feel like, I was in some pretty good venues accenting that stuff. So who the heck knows? But if what you're pushing for is starting to happen and you're staying active, it's totally unscientific, but it's one type of indicator.
We've made some editorial decisions based on the web analytics, less on the comments and what people are expressing in their own words, more on how much time they're spending on a page, and how much interest it's getting, and is it getting interest from Washington State, their general target audience, or is it just a sort of fantastic story, got a lot of interest, but it was international and not necessarily the target audience. So we've talked a lot about the web analytics, but that's all machinated. That's not what people are expressing what they think.
And we love the interaction that we have on Facebook, and a lot of people see our stuff there, but then I was talking to my mom, and she's like, you guys haven't done any new stories in 6 months, why haven't I seen anything? And I'm like, oh, that's because we completely forgot to send out our regular newsletter that we usually send out. My mom just wasn't on Facebook very much. So it was, and that's that is the audience that we built in several years, before Facebook kind of existed.
If you want to see, I think it's 1.5 minutes, an obscenely funny video from Saturday Night Live on intergenerationality. Oh God, my mom's on Facebook. It's worth it. It's on YouTube. Great. We haven't even talked about YouTube. I would say the thing that I am proudest most of is the students that I've mentored into this field. People say this field is dying, but they keep showing up on our doorstep. And we had 3 applicants for every 2 spots. 30-some applicants for 20 spots this last time around. So it's competitive. I don't know where they're coming from. Or one kid did tell me, my friends make fun of me because I'm majoring in journalism. They don't think there's a future in it. I said, well, I'm glad you're standing up to that. And he goes, hell yes.
My problem is I get so overwhelmed with content, and I'm always behind. Just being here tonight, I'm missing 3 hours of emails, and I checked a couple times. And, oh God, there's so many things coming in. So it's great to escape that and to sit in a group. And we need a fire. I think we need a fire. So I think we should do one with a fire sometimes.
I'm John Hibbard. I'm the Washington News Council. We're an independent nonprofit organization that publishes as an outside ombudsman for the news media in Washington State. And I guess I'm proudest of the fact that we were established in 1998, and we are still here. The doors are still open. We're paying the rent. What do we need? Well, sustained funding is certainly is important to all of us. We just did a dinner last Friday night and raised a good chunk of our annual budget. And what I need to be able to do is to be able to have enough money to continue to pay Brian Glantz, who has totally redesigned our website, and Jacob Caggiano, who's now a communications strategist. These guys who I met in JTM in January have brought energy, enthusiasm, creativity, new ideas to the News Council, and we're doing things that we have never done before. The new News Council in the world has ever done before.
If you would have asked me yesterday, what I needed the most, I would have said capacity building money, but yesterday I got some, so I'm very happy about that. From the Brainerd Foundation, so thank you to the Brainerd Foundation. I'm very happy about that. That will help us, I think, move to the next level, build some sustainability, and bring in some skills, expertise that we as journalists don't have.
We actually have 2 reporters in eastern Turkey right now heading to northern Iraq. And they're traveling with a cartoonist on this particular trip, who's also sort of documenting the trip as they go, posting that online. I'm also here representing the Seattle Digital Literacy Initiative, which, and both the Common Language Project and the Digital Literacy Initiative in many ways come out of Journalism That Matters gatherings. It's really been a huge catalyst for us.
I feel like I have a real puzzle on my hands because I keep hearing that part of what makes things work online is that they're very focused. You know, whether it's a particular community, a particular problem you're trying to solve, and that really helps an online community work. But that people are here, and I'm thinking of why I'm here, probably because of this great diversity that JTM brings together. It's the lack of focus in many regards that makes JTM work. So then how do you make JTM work online? That's the
X factor.
There is
factors, yeah.
And if it's because Peggy's so great, then that's the reason that we're all around. Then maybe we just need Peggy's face. That's it. You know, but I mean, there is some sort of X factor.
Well, do you know what the X factor is? It's storytelling, sort of. I mean, really, speaking of
useful storytelling.
Yeah.
You just need fire.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Good job.